Today we're going to talk about our PosiSoft software solutions. So our software for reporting the data that you get out of your DeFelsko devices. So we have quite a few different ways to report. The most common of which is going to be PosiSoft Desktop, and that's what I'm going to spend the most amount of time talking about today. It's kind of our premier solution. Very powerful software, but we've managed to keep it quite user-friendly and intuitive. So a lot of functionality, but really not too difficult to navigate. So you can import readings directly from your gauge via USB from legacy versions of our software, as well as there's now a Wi-Fi import that I'm going to show you guys today. In PosiSoft Desktop, there's also a PosiSoft.net integration. As well as that integration, we also have the old user interface on the web. So you can view the information that is on our cloud server in either way. So you can either just view it in PosiSoft Desktop, or you can view it on PosiSoft.net. The PosiTector mobile apps, either iOS or Android, will connect up to either your PosiTector SmartLink, your advanced PosiTector gauge body, as long as it's one that is BLE enabled, so Bluetooth Low Energy enabled, or the newer version of the PosiTest AT, the ATA automatic adhesion tester. So that data that you store in the mobile app is automatically backed up to PosiSoft.net. So you can do kind of the start of your reporting, maybe some notes, some pictures, things like that in the mobile app. And then you can either finish that reporting through the PosiSoft.net web interface or in PosiSoft Desktop, which is probably the most common way to do it. Then we have PosiSoft USB. So this is just the most simplistic option for reporting. Very simple, just plug in via USB, and just a simple way to view your data and report. So PosiSoft USB, very similar to a flash drive or digital camera. So there's no software to install or internet connection required. It is preloaded into your PosiTector device or the PosiTest AT. In that USB setup, there's also comma separated text files, which make it very easy to import your data into spreadsheets like in Excel. And I'm going to just do a brief demonstration of that. Also has pre-formatted HTML reports. So these reports have been recently redesigned just to change the form factor a little bit. So just makes it very easy to view and print the data from any web browser. You can also view your screen captures here in the PosiSoft USB. So this is what it looks like. Basically, it just comes up as a mass storage device on your computer, similar to if you just plugged in like a flash drive or something like that. So you can see just a pre-formatted report here on the side. It looks a little bit different now, but you get the idea. It's just very simple. And then PosiSoft Desktop. So this is, as I said, kind of the premier solution. So it allows you to store your measurement data either on Mac or PC for viewing and sharing. So there's a lot of options now for sharing data over multiple instances of PosiSoft Desktop, analyzing and reporting. So you import readings directly from the gauge via USB from legacy desktop versions, as well as over Wi-Fi. The jobs feature consolidates individual batches into groups that keep the measurement data organized. Just makes it for a very easy way to report multiple batches in one report. Create customized, professional-looking PDF reports. So really, you can customize just about anything in that report, and we'll go over the full report configurator in the demonstration. And also, there's the integration with PosiSoft.net, so you can store your batch and reading data on the cloud and can basically share all that information over multiple instances of PosiSoft Desktop, as well as to kind of grab information from your mobile app. So just some of the new features that we've added. I'm going to go over these today, just to highlight them now. So you can now import readings directly, either from the advanced PosiTector gauge body or from the PosiTest AT directly via Wi-Fi. So all you have to do is be connected on a common Wi-Fi network, both with your computer and with the gauge, and it will basically just kind of see the gauge there. Your serial number will come up, and it'll just give you the option to import. We've now also changed the look quite a bit because we consolidated the jobs and batches columns. So this makes for a bit more intuitive of a layout. So we used to have individual columns for jobs, batches, readings, etc. Now the jobs and batches are together, and it's more of a kind of a folder format. There's also new help icons that explain things, especially windows that pop up will have a little question mark that you can click on. It will bring you to that portion of the help file and help explain what you're looking at. The report configuration, you'll notice in this version, has changed quite drastically from the previous version. Just to really consolidate it, it used to be a very, basically everything was on one page. Now it is kind of separated into different groups and just makes for a kind of a lesser, not so large of a page. There's now also the option to drag and drop batches from job to job, as well as you can now drag fields into the custom fields template editor, which I am also going to go over. And you can still import PDFs to overlay those fields on and kind of populate your measurement data in the way that you would like to. So this just shows you the kind of the new setup of PosiSoft Desktop. But again, I'm going to go over that here in a minute. And another thing I'm going to go over today is PosiSoft with the prompted batch mode. This mode specifically relates to PosiTector 6000 at this time. So users can create a predefined batch within PosiSoft, giving on-screen text and image prompts that can be then uploaded to the gauge and prompt the user through a batch. So this is really useful when you have repetitive types of batches. So for example, the most common example that we show for this is on rail cars in general. There are entire companies that are just built around the refurbishing of train cars. So they kind of have an inspection process set up so they can just create their prompted batch template for each different type of car that they will be inspecting. And then when the user comes up to the next car, they can just select the type that it is, and it will prompt them through all of the readings that they need to take on that particular part. And then PosiSoft.net. So again, this is integrated into PosiSoft Desktop, but there's also the web interface. So it's just an intuitive interface similar to PosiSoft Desktop, but instead is in a web browser. This can be useful if customers maybe don't have the ability to download software on their computer. Maybe they have firewalls set up that they're not able to download our PosiSoft. They can just use PosiSoft.net on a browser. You can upload your data directly to PosiSoft.net via Wi-Fi, access the data, and generate custom reports from any web browser on any device. So this can also be used on mobile. Just go into your web browser, type in PosiSoft.net, and sign into your account. And of course, fully customizable PDF reports that can be changed in any way that they need to and make them look nice with with customization like logos and headers and things like that. So this just shows you the interface. It's kind of similar to the old interface of PosiSoft Desktop. So it has the job, batches, readings column, and then you have the option on the left to create the PDF from the currently selected job or batch. Then we have the PosiTector mobile app, which is compatible with any Bluetooth low energy enabled devices of ours. So the advanced PosiTector gauge bodies, PosiTector SmartLink, and the new generation of PosiTest ATA, automatic adhesion tester. So this allows you to take advantage of your smart devices features. So typing out notes and things on your touchscreen keyboard. Maybe you need to take a picture of of the part, add it to the report. So it just makes it very easy because it's the same kind of intuitive design that you have that you use for every day on your mobile device. Again, fully customizable PDF reports and instantly back up everything to the cloud. I like to use PosiTector mobile app kind of as a utility to PosiSoft. So add my pictures and my notes and things from the mobile app and then complete my report in the desktop program. So PosiSoft USB, as I said, it's just very simple. Your gauge, when it's connected via USB, is going to pop up as a mass storage device. So this is like if you plugged a flash drive into your computer. Within that folder or within that drive, there's going to be quite a few different things. So if you just want to use the HTML reports, the best part, the best thing to go to is the Start Here. So this is going to show you the batches that are available. I only have one batch in this particular gauge, but it would give you a list of batches that are available. You can then click on that batch. It's going to show you the report for that particular batch. There's also each individual batch has its own. So really you're just getting to the same thing just by clicking into that particular batch folder. Also within this, you see there's screen captures. I don't think I have any I don't have any screen captures, but you're able to capture, I believe it's up to 99 screen captures on the device now. It would basically upload as a picture file into this folder, and it would just be displayed there. So within each of these batches, in addition to that HTML report, there's quite a few other things here. So there's a couple of text files, as well as the charts are stored as just a image file. One thing that the customers often do is that they'll want to take information from their gauge and get it into a third-party application or program. So a very common thing to do is just to get their things into Excel. So I've just opened Excel here. I'm just going to go to Open, Browse, and so I find our PosiTector and the particular batch that I'd like to report. And we've got this readings.txt. So it's a text file that's going to give us a comma separated, comma separated for all the different values that are held within. So I'll just hit open here. And then Excel is automatically going to give me the option of how to import this text file. So I want to delimit it with certain characters. So I want to delimit specifically by comma, because there are commas between each of the different values. So I'm going to switch it to comma. And when I do that, you'll see that it separates everything into its individual parts. So I'm just going to hit finish here. So this is a pretty easy thing to do to get information out of the gauge and directly into Excel. There's also an option in PosiSoft to export as CSV, which basically does exactly the same thing. But I just thought I would show you this because it's a pretty simple thing to do just directly from that mass storage device. So I believe that's really it for USB, PosiSoft USB. Because it's so simple, there's really not much to it. Just know that your batches and your reading data are held just in this mass storage device and can be viewed without having to use any software. And so now we'll go into PosiSoft Desktop. As I said, this is going to be the bulk of the presentation. This is our premier solution for data management and for reporting overall. So if you've seen PosiSoft Desktop before, you'll notice that it has changed. We just released this update last Thursday. So we've now consolidated jobs and batches. So the jobs are basically a folder, and within those folders, there are individual batches. So we can click on the job, we'll get the entire job report, or we can open this up, and if we want to just look at this particular batch, we can just click on that batch, and we're going to bring up the batch report. So the layout, it's basically just in 4 different sections. So we have the connected gauge section, the jobs and batches, the readings, so readings that are held within those individual batches, and then we have the preview over on the side. So first thing we'll want to do is obviously import data. So I do have my PosiTector connected up via USB. So if I didn't have it connected, this would be grayed out. But you can see that there's an import option here. I can just click that and import. It's also there's usually some redundancy to most of these features. So I can just go import from gauge, and I have the option both for USB and for Wi-Fi. So we also have Wi-Fi import here. This is a new feature with the newer version of PosiSoft Desktop. So basically, I have a Wi-Fi network here at home. I'm connected to that Wi-Fi network with my laptop, as well as the PosiTector. Because of that, PosiSoft Desktop sees that PosiTector and brings it up here in this list. So I guess I'll import via Wi-Fi instead of USB. So I just selected it, hit import, and now a dialog box is going to come up and ask me where I want to put that data. So this is also kind of new. Before it would just import into, it was just all batches, and then you would then pull it out into the job that you want to. So you can now just create a job from here. You can go with no job, which would put it into this batches not linked to a job field, or any of the current jobs that you have available. So I'm just going to make a new job. As we know, I only have one batch in here, but we'll call it April 20. I could at this time, if I wanted to, I could add a batch, or excuse me, a job picture, but I'm just going to create the job. So I now imported those readings, just that one batch, into this new job that I've created. And you can see the readings here. Because I have this selected, this will give me the data within that job. So alternatively, we can create a job. So if we're not importing data, maybe we want to just use some of the batches that we currently have. We can just hit new, make a new job. And I can add a picture, add notes, etc. And then I can select batches that I want to go into that job. So really just has the same utilities as any Windows, or if you're on Mac, using Mac, you can select select multiple jobs by holding down Control, and then hit the little caret here to go over. Or if you want to select a range, you can just hit Shift, select the first one, and then click the last one that you want. So now I've put some of those batches from batches not linked to a job into my new job. But if I want to, I can pull batches in that are already linked to other jobs. So if I just go view all batches, this is all batches that are held within PosiSoft. So this is similar to what we would have had before. We just had the view all batches section. But now we're making the assumption that most customers just want their batch in one particular job, but they have the ability to to display them in several if they wish to. So there's different things that are different characteristics are shown here. The one that I would like to note is the batch order. So I've renamed a lot of these batches. So it's not just batch 1, B2, B3, B4, etc. There's different batch names. So there's now a batch order, and this is useful when you are using custom fields. So for example, if I wanted the first batch that would come up to be, let's see here, if I wanted to change batch order, I could just go switch this one down. That would change the way these order in the custom fields. So I'll hit OK. I've made a new job. And you also have, of course, the ability to edit the batch. Edit the job. So if you have that job selected, you can then hit edit. It's going to bring up something that's very similar to the new job dialog box. So this is if you've already got a job created, just hit edit. There's quite a few different options here within the menus up at the top. There's just a few that I do want to point out. I'm going to talk a little bit later about prompted batches, but that's here in File. Edit, obviously pretty self-explanatory. View, there's the option to kind of expand some of these windows down here. So you can just expand jobs and batches so that you get more information in here. You can also drop and drag, drag the fields, resize these. Maybe you want a bigger preview screen and you don't really need to see the readings. You can just drag that over. Now, as I said before, we have the PosiSoft.net integration into PosiSoft Desktop. So that's what this particular option is for. So if we wanted to set up .net, you can see I already have one here that is registered. What I would do is I'll go in my gauge body, go to setup, and then gauge info, and quite a few different things are going to come up. But a few of the first ones are going to be the gauge serial number, so the gauge body serial number, and then the key. The key is just a unique identifier for that particular gauge body, and it's used exclusively for this function for PosiSoft Desktop. So you'll enter those in here, register, and then it will just come up here to the top and show in your list of gauges that are registered to PosiSoft.net within PosiSoft Desktop. So really that means that if anytime that you're connected to Wi-Fi, to any Wi-Fi, your gauge is going to upload its current batch data for display in PosiSoft Desktop. Not only that, though, you could have one gauge registered to several different instances of PosiSoft Desktop. So where that would be useful is, say you have an inspector or several different inspectors, and then a foreman or engineer, someone who needs all of the data that those inspectors are collecting. So on the PosiSoft Desktop of each of those inspectors, you'd put in the serial number and key. Then you also put that same serial number and key into the foreman's computer, register it. So basically all of the batch and reading data would sync. So any changes that I make here would also go into that other instance of PosiSoft Desktop. So that means any changes that I make to the batch or reading data of this particular serial number in PosiSoft Desktop will also go into that other instance. So reading and batch pictures, notes, things like that. Another important thing here that is quite powerful and useful is the import and export features. So just to kind of go over these, you can export batches as CSV, so that would be a comma separated file. So if I export a batch as CSV, on my computer, it's just going to come up as an Excel file. So just a very simple way to get information out of PosiSoft Desktop into something like Excel. I can export all data and settings. That would be useful if, say, I got a new computer, I need to get all my data in there. So this is just going to create a database file that can be stored and sent to my new computer and loaded just in the opposite direction. Just go to import all data and settings. It can also be great for just doing a backup. So if I just need to hold on to this data, but I want to just delete all of the information that I have, kind of get rid of stuff that I don't need, then I can just create this. It's going to make a database file that I can, if I need to get that data later, I can just import it back in. We've also got the same thing for individual jobs and batches, so that can be useful if I just need to send a job or a batch or several batches to another user of PosiSoft Desktop. They'll then be able to just import that file that I've sent them. And probably one of the most useful export features is the report template. So I'm going to show you a little bit about changing a report template here in a moment. You can really make a lot of changes to make the report look exactly how you'd like it to. So let's say I did that, but I have several different coworkers that we'd like to present all of our data in that same way. So once I've created the report exactly how I want it, I can export that report, send it to them. They can import it into PosiSoft Desktop. That way we'll be kind of standardized. They won't have to repeat my efforts of making that that report look exactly how we want it to. And then we have the prompted batch template. Again, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but you can export both the template or you can export the template out to the gauge. So this is how you would actually push it to your PosiTector 6000 in order to have that prompted batch available. And then of course, if you ever get stuck, just go over to help and then to help. This will bring you to our full help file, which you can see has been redone. So this is everything about PosiSoft Desktop. So this will go into even more of a review than I'm going over today. So next, we'll talk about the report templates. So the report is kind of it is going to live display here, and anything that you change about the report is going to change here in the preview window. So currently, I'm just on the default report. Okay, that's just basically everything turned on. It's not customized at all. It's going to have your job data as well as the individual batch data, but it's not going to look the way that you need it to look. So you can just hit new. And actually, one thing that's really important to note is that if you are creating a template that is, you want just a variation on a current template that you have, you can select one of these and hit new. It's going to clone the current one that is selected. So if I want, this is obviously one that I created in the past, I select that one and hit new. It's going to create a clone of this one, so I don't have to redo everything that I've done here. So for example, I've done some custom fields things here. It's just creating a copy of that one. So that's useful if you need the same data in the new report, but you just want to create a variation of it. So I'll just go to default, and then I'm just going to create one just right from scratch. So I hit new, and again, this window has changed drastically. It used to be basically the entire size of the screen, many different things that were all on one screen. All of that stuff is still in here, but it's been broken up into sections. So I have my page settings here, so I can, change my margins, change my font size, picture size, stuff like that, my font. We have then section order, so that's the order in which everything is going to display in the report. We can change the date, time format, and stuff about the charts. We then have individual section settings, so header, footer, things like that. So let's say I want to say training, and then I can change the size of that. I can also add a picture logo. So let's see, I've got this logo here. We're going to display that in the top of the top right corner. Selected right side alignment. Can change the size and other things like that too. We can add a cover page. So add in text here. Maybe you want to say something about the particular job. So we can add that in here. We can also add a custom PDF, and where that is useful is, say your customer has an instrument that maybe we don't manufacture, but they want to put it in the same report. So as long as they've saved that that report as a PDF, then they can just browse that, find it, and put it into the report. Also, would be useful if they want to put in the text of the standards that they use or something like that. We then have custom fields, both job and batch. I'm going to go over that next, but I'll just explain the rest of this really quickly. We have the job section settings. So basically, if you're displaying a job currently, it's going to show you kind of the summary and all the different stuff about the job, and then it's going to show you individual batches. So you can change that section here. Of course, there's a footer, and then we have the individual batch settings. So this is, each one of the batches that you're displaying, it gives you the option to, include or exclude all the different factors of that particular batch. So this one relates to our coating thickness PosiTector 6000 batches. So let's say I wanted to get rid of charts and histograms. I can just do that, just unclick. We've got that for all the different types of probes here, as well as the PDF batch. I'm just going to save and refresh. That should bring our little picture up to the top. And of course, it's a live updating PDF, so it's going to tell you that it's loading. So I added my text, my image for the header. And so now the next thing I wanted to go over is custom fields. So before we go over, the designer of custom fields, it's important to make the distinction between job custom fields and batch. A job custom field is one template that relates to the entire job. So on that template, I could put information from all of the different instruments that I have held within the report. Now the batch custom field, though, that is going to basically give me individual, it's going to give me a template for each different batch. So let's say I had 20 batches and they were all PosiTector 6000. That means that it's going to pull information out of each of those batches and display it before the each one of the PosiTector 6000 batches. So we'll just do a job custom field. And this window is going to come up. We can see I adjusted the margins out a little bit. We have first the PDF background. So this can be useful. So I can browse for a PDF. I'm going to just use this tank car. So this is just a PDF so that I can overlay readings on top of it. So I can then zoom in and out as I need to, and I can add different fields on top of this image. You don't necessarily need to have your fields on top of an image. You can create just kind of a worksheet from scratch, but I think most customers are using it in this type of format where you're you're using a worksheet that you were filling out by hand, and now you're just overlaying your information on top of that. So let's say for this one, we're going to add readings. So we select the particular type of instrument that we are going to be pulling information from. So I selected PosiTector 6000 for coding thickness. I can then select a field and drag it, or I can now drag and drop. So that's a new feature that that changed recently. Prior to now, it was just you had to select the field and drag it out as I did before. Now, kind of just to make it a bit more intuitive, we've added that drag and drop function. We've also added we call it the easy readings window. So this one here that just says reading, if I put this on the report, it's going to bring me up a dialog box, and it's asking me, where do you want to pull that information from? So if I wanted it to be from the second PosiTector 6000 batch in the batch order, can use sub batches. This is most useful if a customer is using something like a PA2 mode in the gauge. And then obviously you can say the reading. So let's say I wanted it to be batch 2, reading 2. I would just do that. And it's going to automatically change my syntax text. In the help file, there is a full syntax guide. So basically, there's no suffix to PosiTector 6000. But if I were adding in, let's say, I'm going to put in air temperature from the DPM. And I put in a reading here. Just put 1 and 1. So this one now, it's batch 1, reading 1 of TA. So that's the suffix for air temperature. That is denoting that it's grabbing the information, the first available in the order of air temperature. So reading 1, batch 1 of air temperature. Another new feature that has come into to custom fields with this latest release is the X and Y coordinates, as well as the height and width. Okay, so let's say, I'm just gonna bring this over here. Let's say I like the size of this field that I have here. So it is 99 by 19. So another new feature is if I right click instead of left click, so right click and then pull out this box, anything that's within that box is going to be selected. So we went 99 by 19. So now these boxes are exactly the same size. So this is width and height of that box. And let's say that I wanted to line these up so they are on the same X coordinate. So I'm going to, again, select them. First of all, X is 199. So I drag and drop that right click. So 199, that's going to line them up perfectly. And so this is very useful if you have a worksheet like the one that I just showed. Just gonna save this. And save. going to load the PDF. So if I select this template where I had all of these different, these different sections, these different fields. So if I wanted to line these up perfectly or make the, make the size of the text the same, then I would, that's when I would want to use that for the X and Y coordinates as well as the height and width. So I'm just going to go into edit. This one is be a job custom field. I go back in here. I zoom in. There's also a snap to grid function. So this is going to be, it's probably hard to see, but there are little dots here on the back. And basically it's going to allow for easier dropping and dragging to the correct location where you want it. Or you can just do this. So this is 271. So lined them up perfectly. Hit OK on that. Let's say I want to, I'm just going to do a batch custom field. So within this job, we've got, let's see, we do have a couple of PosiTector 6000 batches. So I'm going to go back to edit and open a batch custom field. So here I'm going to basically select which type of batch I'm going to be pulling from. And then I can add individual things for each of these PosiTector 6000 batches. So let's say you see it grays out the batch because this custom field is going to show up for each batch, but is only going to populate data for PosiTector 6000 batches. So I'm not using sub batches, but let's say I want to do reading 1 and reading 2 and reading 3 of each of those PosiTector 6000 batches. Just save. So we still have a job custom field up at the top. If I hit OK here, I keep scrolling down. Once I get down to the PosiTector 6000 batch, so this is our first PosiTector 6000 batch in this job. And so you can see it pulled out the first 3 readings from that batch and put them into this batch custom field. So next, I just wanted to quickly go over the prompted batches. So again, a prompted batch is basically going to predefine a batch that will be on your PosiTector. So I'm going to do new batch template. So we'll call this car. So it gives me the option to add a gauge text prompt, as well as a report note that's not going to show up on the gauge, and then a picture. So first I'll select my picture. Let's see, I want to use the rail car. So it does have to be an image file. There's a couple different files that it can be. But basically, this is what you see down here is what you're going to see on the gauge. So you click here where you want to have your reading. So we'll call that right rear. So I'm going to just zoom in so that the user knows where to take the reading and hit OK. But I can make multiple different readings. So I'm just going to make a new one. It's going to pull up the same image that we had on the last reading, but you can change the image throughout this report. So I'm just going to go here, zoom out to where I want it, and front. So I'm going to make 3 different readings that I'm going to send out to my PosiTector. So that's now saved, and I can go now to export and export a prompted batch template to my gauge. Obviously, I've created a few different ones here, but I just created one called tank car. Put that over here and selected templates and hit OK. So that template is now on my gauge. I'm just going to switch back over here to camera. So on the PosiTector, I'm just going to go into memory, and then there's an option called new prompted. Hit that, and the first one that comes up is tank car. And so you can see there's the image that I uploaded, as well as the prompt text. Just take a reading here. So I took that reading, and then it automatically moved on to the next reading. So and then on to the third. Sorry about the glare. If I didn't like one of those readings, I can just hit the minus button. That will delete it, and we'll go back to the last spot, and we can kind of scroll in between them. So if I did, I can just hit the plus button. So go back, retake this reading. It's going to go on to the next. Take that one. And I've only added 3 readings, so then it says batch is complete.